Si comes tienes que lavar tu plato, Firulais. Anda, enjuágalo bien. No me gruñas. A ver, con la esponja eso. Y enjuaga bien que luego deja todo jabonoso. Eso así, muy bien, aunque de malas.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would seem that up-and-comer Maisie Rose has secured herself a fight with unbeaten up-and-comer Megan Redstall, scheduled for 10 rounds in the women's flyweight division where Gabby Fundora currently holds all of the alphabet titles. This fight is for a WBO international title, though it doesn't really matter because any step in the direction of an alphabet title is a step in the direction of Gabby Fundora. She holds them all. Maisie Rose sports a professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss and no draws, no recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 10 professional bouts. Her lone defeat came at the hands of Poland's Jasmina Sapotoczna close to 2 years ago in July of 2024. Maisie has fought 3 times since then and won 3 times since then, albeit against pedestrian-level competition. I mean, one girl she fought had a recorded 117 losses. Every single fighter she's faced since then has had an upside-down record, more losses than victories. So even though Maisie Rose is back in the winner's bracket, it ain't by fighting anybody good. The girl she's about to fight, Megan Redstall, will be the first fighter with a winning record she's faced in close to 2 years. Megan sports a professional record of 7 wins with no losses and 1 draw, 1 recorded knockout. Last in action in February of this year opposite the ring, Consolata Musanga, who she decisioned over 10 rounds. Megan Redstall, very active in the previous year, having fought 3 times, once in March, again in June, then again in November, before eventually returning to action in February of this year. Whoever her handlers are, they're doing a good job of keeping her active, keeping her busy, in spite of not being with a major promotional outfit. For Megan, this will arguably be the best fighter that she would have ever fought in Maisie Rose, a sort of sink-or-swim fight for both girls, really. Because Maisie Rose needs a win here just as much as Megan. It's also important to note that this is not a matchroom show. Maisie Rose, she was with them for a time, and she was with them in her last fight, whereas this promotion is a top-tier promotion, a small local promotional outfit over there in the United Kingdom. I don't know if Maisie Rose is still with Matchroom at this point. She might not be. Boxing in what is a 10-rounder for only the 2nd time in her career. The first was the fight that she lost against Jasmina Sapotoczna. This will be the 2nd time that Maisie Rose fights for 10 rounds. See if her cardio is up for it. Best described as a very aggressive fighter that seems to border between a boxer-puncher and a pressure fighter. But when she's getting on that front foot and really going for it, swinging for the fences, she does have the look of a pressure fighter. It's still early days for Maisie. Her base style is still forming. Remember, she only has 10 professional fights. That's not a lot. This fight that she's about to have with Megan Redstall is all the way out there in July. There will be approximately 7 months in between Maisie's last fight in December of last year and her next one in July of this one. Not overly impressed with Maisie Rose as a fighter, I'll be honest. You used to see her palling around a lot with Sky Nicholson. She's got a sharp tongue, Maisie Rose, sparkling personality, and a very aggressive style of fighting that I don't think would service her in most situations in the flyweight division, least of all opposite the ring Gabby Fundora. If she does make it to a point where she's challenging Gabby for all of those belts, that's not a hard pick to make. Yeah, I got Gabby. Gabby knocks her out. Though before we go worrying about Gabby, Maisie's got to worry about Megan, and we've got to see if she can make it past her. We're going to give Megan a closer look as the fight date approaches.
We'll talk more about it.
In men's super middleweight news, newly minted WBA champion Jaime Munguia is open to Carlos Adames' fight after title win as super middleweight picture begins to shift. Bear in mind, this is the same Jaime Munguia who said he'd be willing to go down to 160 pounds to try to win a belt down there. Has he now doubled back on those plans and plans on staying at super middle? Fresh off reclaiming championship status at super middle, Jaime Munguia already has another potential challenger calling his name. WBC middleweight champion Carlos Adames recently said he would be interested in moving up to super middle for a fight with Munguia, while also reviving previous claims that the former champion avoided a matchup with him at 160. Munguia, however, did not dismiss the possibility. Of course, Munguia told Boxing Social when asked about facing Adames, "We're ready. Let him come up to 168 and we'll see each other there."
Munguia has fast become one of the more sought-after super middleweights in the division, not just because he's got a belt, but because he's got some name value. Shortly after winning, IBF champion Ozzy Iglesias called him out, and now Carlos Adames is calling him out.
Now training under Eddie Reynoso alongside Canelo Alvarez, Munguia appears positioned for bigger opportunities again, especially with his recent collaboration alongside PBC opening more possibilities at 168. Adames, who has publicly pushed for major fights outside the middleweight division, would fit that category. The Dominican champion brings movement, athleticism, and a style different from the pressure-heavy Mexican fighters Munguia has traditionally faced. Still, Munguia sounded confident about the matchup. "He's a good fighter," Munguia said. "I've watched him fight several times, and he's definitely a great fighter, but we're ready for those kinds of fighters and those kinds of big fights. The timing is what makes the situation interesting."
Calling it a big fight is what's interesting. Carlos Adames would fall under the who needs you category at 168 because at least at 160 he had a belt. At 168 he ain't got nothing and he ain't worth no money.
He's no ticket seller and he's barely a main event fighter, so that if Jaime chooses to defend his belt against this guy, it could blow up in his face, with Jaime now attached to the Reynoso camp and increasingly connected to the broader Canelo orbit. There is also speculation that Saudi Arabia's Turkey El Sheikh could have interest in placing Munguia on the proposed Mexico versus the World card targeted for Riyadh in September. Munguia remains one of the biggest Mexican names outside of Canelo himself, and a return to Saudi after his previous Riyadh season appearance would not be surprising. Canelo Alvarez himself also mentioned asking Jaime Munguia about boxing on his undercard.
You figure that Jaime can sit out the rest of this month and all of June, maybe most of July, before starting to get ready at the end, all through August to box in September. They could do it. A title defense against Adames at 168 would give Munguia the kind of high-risk fight critics have long demanded. A Mexico versus Dominican Republic showdown in Riyadh could offer an even bigger stage for financial and political advancement. For now, Munguia is keeping the door open, and with multiple divisions beginning to overlap, the super middleweight picture suddenly feels crowded again.
Though you have to bear in mind, before any of this became a conversation, before and after Jaime beat Resendiz, he did say he was thinking about moving down to 160 and fighting for a title down there. With Carlos Adames moving up, the WBC title he is now set to leave behind would give Jaime a reason to then move down.
Wouldn't that leave Jaime open to criticism, though? That he's brazenly avoiding Carlos Adames, who has now called him out that he's ducking him?
It would, but it wouldn't be the first time for Jaime. All throughout his campaigns at 154 and 160, Jaime has been accused of avoiding anyone from Jermall Charlo to Demetrius Andrade.
Carlos Adames would be just another name on that list if Jaime does decide to forego a fight with him to move down to 160 instead. It's nothing new.
If he doesn't fight Carlos, if he does, it's actually a pretty good fight, and it's not a foregone conclusion that either man wins. In terms of boxing,
I like Carlos Adames' X's and O's a bit better than I like Jaime's, but I do think Jaime packs the bigger punch. In terms of punch resistance, I would say they're about even.
I don't think Carlos holds the best punch, but then again, neither does Jaime Munguia, who was knocked out by a little-known Frenchman in Bruno Surace. I picked Jaime to beat Armando Resendiz. I said he would win a decision and become WBA champion, but against Carlos, it's a more dangerous situation. It's a more dangerous fight.
Jaime could lose that one.
Carlos Adames is a more dynamic fighter than Armando Resendiz. It's a tougher assignment.
Then what's the reward?
The money that he makes from boxing on one of Turkey's shows. If it does happen on the undercard of Canelo's next fight, that's who's paying for everything. Fighting Carlos, while risky, is not as risky as, say, fighting a Christian Mabili or a Kevin Lele Sajo, a Hamza Shiraz, or an Ozzy Iglesias. Those big, very big, super middleweights.
A Diego Pacheco, a Bektamir Melankuziev. I think, comparatively, it would be harder to beat them than it would be to beat Carlos. Not that beating Carlos is easy, but maybe it's easier than beating them.
Because Carlos has been beat before, because Carlos would be new to the weight, whereas Jaime Munguia has been there a bit longer. I like the fight. I don't really know if it happens, but if it does, it's all right, and I'll take it. Downstairs at Welter, Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao has gotten a new fight date. Floyd Mayweather's spectacular comeback for a rematch against his old rival Manny Pacquiao is a brand new date. The former welterweight fighter shook up the combat sports world when they announced earlier this year that they would take part in a fully sanctioned fist fight in September at the state-of-the-art venue, the Sphere of Las Vegas. Mayweather, though, recently cast doubt on the show. He downplayed the status of it, insisting his undefeated record would not be on the line, an ultimatum of Pacquiao's. He also said it was no guarantee it would take place at the Sphere. So far, he was at least half right. This is because, per Boxing Scene, there is indeed a venue change with the fight. Instead, heading to the more intimate MGM Grand Garden Arena, the very site they fought in 11 years ago when Mayweather breezed to a decision win that lacked action in routine fashion. Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao 2 will now take place on September 26th. A statement from Boxing Scene said, the MGM Grand will likely be the venue for the event.
What's the fucking difference? The MGM Grand? The Sphere?
It's probably that one location is a lot more expensive to book than the other. What chunk of the budget, what portion of it would have to go to booking the Sphere when you could easily do the fight at a cheaper location? To the people in attendance, I don't think it's going to matter a great deal that it's at the Sphere, and if anything, it could drive the cost of tickets up to the point where not that many people show up because not that many people can afford to.
That's just me bouncing ideas around.
But I vaguely recall Dana White, after having done at least one of his UFC shows at the Sphere, saying that it's too expensive and he won't be taking the UFC back there, so maybe that might have something to do with this?
The operational costs.
I already fought Manny and beat Manny once, Mayweather said in a statement sent to Boxing Social earlier this year in February. This time will be the same result. Pacquiao, meanwhile, said, Floyd and I gave the world what remains the biggest fight in boxing history. The fans have waited long enough. They deserve this rematch, and it will be even bigger now that it will be streamed live globally on Netflix. I want Floyd to live with the one loss on his pro record, and always remember who gave it to him. As always, I dedicate this fight to my fellow Filipinos around the world, and to bring glory to the Philippines.
Things would have really come full circle for Floyd Mayweather, who's said to have gone completely broke as a result of Al Heyman and Showtime conspiring to steal all of his money. If he lost all of that and then he loses his O afterwards.
When it rains, it pours, ain't that what they say? But he was at least half right when he said that the fight won't be happening at the Sphere. The whole appeal of doing a show at the Sphere is that it's an interactive experience for the audience, a unique,
albeit very expensive experience that likely would have drove the operational costs of everything up, and thus, perhaps that's why they decided to move it, to keep more of the money they make.
And they're sure to make some, perhaps not as much as they did the first time out, as since then, everyone who took in the fight experienced a sharp sense of buyer's remorse. It wasn't the super fight that it was made out to be.
Not aesthetically. It's not so much about the fight's outcome, who won, but how the fight played out. It took 5 years to finally get them in the ring with each other so that it could be a dull, dreary, anticlimactic, overly priced pay-per-view. This time out, they won't have the mystique they initially had when they first met, but they won't have the paywall either, as the distributor of this show will be Netflix, which is already available in over 330 million homes around the world. So it's still a big stage.
Big enough that they can make big money, just not as much as they did before. It not being a pay-per-view, they're likely receiving a flat dollar amount. Floyd and Manny. A lot of which is going to have to go to the tax man, who Floyd Mayweather is estimated to owe in excess of $7 million. And that's just the IRS. That's not counting all these other people that are suing him.
Jas Mathur, the CEO of Manny Pacquiao Promotions, stated some weeks ago that Floyd Mayweather has already borrowed against his purse for this fight.
Could it be to pay some of these people off, including the IRS, who are said to be moving to ground Floyd Mayweather and revoke his passport on the premise that he owes them so much money before he meets with Manny Pacquiao?
He's going to be going through with that Mike Zambides exhibition.
They held the kickoff press conference for it yesterday, where initially Jas Mathur said that a part of the Pacquiao deal was that he couldn't do any exhibitions prior to the Pacquiao fight. That must have been something they amended in this new deal.
They're going to let Floyd do it.
It looks like they are, because up until this point, the story was if Floyd Mayweather had gone through with either the Mike Tyson exhibition or the Mike Zambides exhibition, he would have been found in breach of his contract to do the thing with Manny. They must have amended that because he is going through with it.
The Mike Zambides exhibition is supposed to be going down next month, and the thing with Manny, that's in late September.
What about the thing with Mike Tyson?
Well, that was supposed to have gone down last month in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but things sort of quietly fizzled out for that exhibition. Floyd Mayweather still has 2 events on schedule. 1 exhibition, 1 actual fight, 1 pay-per-view,
And 1 event on Netflix.
because the Mike Zambides exhibition is being distributed as a pay-per-view, and I don't know who Floyd Mayweather expects to kick out their hard-earned cash to watch him do a waltz with a little-known kickboxer from Greece. Now, Mike Zambides is a well-known guy in kickboxing circles, but kickboxing in America is not a mainstream sport. So I don't know who in America Floyd expects to buy this thing.
And because it's happening in Athens, Greece, as opposed to somewhere in the United States, like, say, Atlantic City or Las Vegas, that tells you where the funding for the event is coming from.
It's not coming from Floyd.
Now, what could they possibly be paying Floyd Mayweather to fly out there and do a waltz, do a little dance with Mike Zambides? It really can't be much.
So Floyd's fighting for peanuts?
Compared to what he usually gets, yes. He'd be fighting for peanuts compared to what he got for Conor, what he got for Manny the first time out, what he got for Canelo, what he got for Oscar, the kind of money that he used to make.
I don't think for a second he's about to make that with Mike Zambides.
But that's how strapped for cash he is. At yesterday's press conference, he reassured that he's not going through financial hardships and he's doing just fine, in spite of mounting debts and all the reports about all the people that he owes all the money. He's gonna say that he's fine. But you wouldn't be going out there to box Mike Zambides if you were.
Or giving Manny Pacquiao a rematch.
Least of all, a rematch that qualifies as a sanctioned fight that counts towards your record and his. Can lightning strike twice in a bottle? Can Floyd Mayweather at 49 years old do now what he did a decade ago to Manny? They're both older, they're both slower, but Manny's actually been fighting.
That's what's been keeping him sharp, whereas Floyd, he's been playing dancing bear for some years now.
And the thing is, how he was able to beat Manny all those years ago was with speed, reflexes, and timing to time Manny Pacquiao at the door and prevent him from getting anything going while beating those feet, moving around, using the ring.
All of which is a lot easier to do when you're a younger man. Not that he was all that young then, but he definitely ain't young now.
So can he still do to Manny what he did before? That's going to be the appeal of this fight. Even though the first one was a dud, the way you sell the second is that maybe this time Manny might be able to get to him.
And it won't cost you anything extra to find out, to watch it, because it's on Netflix.
So we'll see what happens in September.